So some people in the audience will recognize where the title came from. How many of you do? Just so I get an idea of the vintage in the room. Do you know where the title came from? Thank you, Catherine. She's right. This band was on when I was I think they were growing when I was in college, so this is very old. But there's a history to the song, which is why I picked the title, and there's a whole Wikipedia page on it. So, when you and I first discussed this event, she suggested that loads of stories would be told, lots of advice would be given, and since you have a PhD in decision making, why don't you put a decision making wrapper around all of that? So that was quite an interesting point at which the brief ended. So I've been thinking about the funding ecosystem in London. Loads of people here have lots of money. In the last 15 or 16 years that I've actively engaged with startups in London, I have seen that many successful and wealthy people have become angel investors. What never used to be there and has come about in the last 5 to 10 years is accelerators of various kinds, including accelerators being set up by big banks or big corporations. Not all of these accelerators, as many of you will know from experience, are really accelerators. Some of them are just PR stunts, some of them are CSR kickboxing exercises. And then of course, for good measure, we have a whole bunch of number of good VCs with track records now in London. This too has changed in the last 16 years that I've been engaged with this sector. In spite of all this money supposedly kicking around, whose money should I take is not necessarily an option for founders. I'm actually going to push the boundary and ask you to consider another very important question. Whose money should I not take? And I know that this is sounding like a luxury or a foolhardy question to consider, but hopefully by the time I end my talk, we will agree that this is an important consideration. So founders, especially in London and elsewhere, because I work with founders in India and California and in the UK, they're increasingly creating businesses that are not just economically sustainable, but also socially and environmentally responsible. I don't know if Isabel is in this room, but she's one of the founders in London, and she's creating a virtual reality startup which is helping rehab patients. Yay! So that there is Isabel in the audience. Another founder told me her story in great detail yesterday, and she couldn't come because she had her tooth surgery done. She's creating a startup to give women power over their sexuality and over their sexual health. And she's also interested in creating sexual awareness through sex education in more conservative communities around the world, where women actually don't get any advice or any education. Another founder sent her story in yesterday, and she's building a business, or she has already built a business which gives 50% of its revenue to community projects. And she's now scaling and rolling it out to bring it to large organizations so that they could do something similar and meaningfully responsible for the communities. For such people who are so fully and so existentially invested in their startups, it is not really easy to pursue mammon single-mindedly. To them, the question of whose money they should not take is a pretty important question. And it's also difficult to deal with because the power imbalance, as we are often told through received wisdom, is going to be in the favor of the person who has a lot of money, some of which money you need. But you didn't become founders because you believe in received wisdom, did you? So why would you believe that power imbalance either? How do you decide? That is the question that people ask me the most when they ask me, what is your PhD in? And I say, decision making. Okay then, tell us everything. So I'm going to try and tell you 2 things that you might want to think about when it comes to not taking some people's money. The first step or first tip is to know yourself. It is harder than it sounds because reflection and introspection are hard. And when you're pressed for time, you're creating a venture, it definitely looks like a waste of time and navel gazing. But it is also true that sometimes it takes an external stimulus for us to know how we articulate our values explicitly. So some of you may know that there is a US-centric female founders group on Facebook. And when Peter Thiel came out and put some money behind Donald Trump and spoke at the Republican National Congress, people went crazy. oh my God, he has written that women's suffrage was a loss to capitalism. Women should have never got the vote. Oh, he has written a book where he said complaints about rape were just delayed regret. And when I asked gently, did you not know that this book has existed in which he made the rape comment since 94? No. Did you not know that his essay about women's suffrage has been online for at least 6 or 7 years? No. So this is an interesting point to ponder, that those women were realizing that Peter Thiel, whose book is considered the Bible, who's a coveted investor, he's a billionaire who doesn't have to give a shit about anybody's feelings or thoughts other than his own, had these views. And it took all that exposure for many women to realize that maybe Peter Thiel's money is not for them. But it's also true, it's never too late to know where our red lines are. I have been an independent consultant for 16 years. I have turned down huge numbers of projects which are about companies that sell cigarettes or that are involved in ammunition or warfare in any form whatsoever. These are my red lines. The other thing I do is, as a consumer, I'm extremely skeptical about spending money on companies that sell to women but don't have women executives or women on boards. This also, by the way, is a money-saving tip. If you looked at the executive boards and non-executive boards of companies before you put your card number online, you will actually never shop, almost never shop. So that was the first tip, know yourself. The second tip is know the other. Do your homework, do your due diligence, and go beyond the portfolio and the economic returns that the investor has been making for themselves and for the LPs. This is important for two reasons. You can see that I think in the structure point 1, point 2, A, B, right? Okay. So 2B or 2A. Firstly, this is important because we don't slice ourselves into the personal and the professional. If you have an unwed child, a dripping tap, an undone load of laundry, which means you have no socks tomorrow, it comes to work with you. It occupies your working memory. And we can't really let go of that. But a whole bunch of other stuff also comes to work with us. So research shows, and you were expecting research references, weren't you? Research shows that heterosexual men whose wives are not employed, compared to men whose wives are full-time employed, go to work with attitudes, beliefs, and behaviors that disfavor women in the workplace. And they make decisions that prevent the advancement of qualified women. Ponder on that for a second. The structure of the marriage that a man is in will determine how he treats female colleagues and other females he comes across in his workplace. That's a pretty important metric. When you're doing your due diligence, it's important. On a happier note, research also shows that leaders who have daughters end up leading businesses more responsibly. So that is another kind of thing to consider. The second reason why it is important for us to know the other well is that an investor brings more than just money. They bring their networks, they bring the benefit of their experience, and they bring the effects of their reputation. A lot of time evaluating these non-monetary inputs is quite hard. But founder due diligence on investors is a powerful tool. And that's something I almost always advise. I say almost because I often engage with companies after they raise money too. But if we are engaged before they raise money, I advise them to do due diligence on the investors they are seeking to engage with. Because the investor-founder relationship is a little bit like a marriage or a civil partnership. It is formalized, it's for the long haul, and it takes work every day so that the decisions are made optimally. So when doing the due diligence, talk to everybody. Talk to their former investee companies founders, talk to other fellow founders, talk to other investors, do secondary research if you have to, and ask to meet investors in a non-work setting so you can see how they interact with the world when they're not making decisions on where to put the money. Look for patterns. Look for both encouraging and discouraging signs. And most importantly, trust your gut feeling. Your gut feeling is not what people tell you is like something of a prejudice. Your gut feeling is the heuristic your brain has developed over the years of your experiences of different kinds in this world that your subconscious is able to command in a split second. So you don't consciously think about it, but it is very much you. So don't distrust your gut feeling about people. And in the process of due diligence, here is the most crucial bit. Research finds that personal values of leaders function as the filters that shape their decisions and behavior, particularly how they extract value or create value in the business. As founders, you're in the business of creating value. So if there is somebody whose values don't match yours, it is going to create dissonance in the kinds of decisions you make in creating value. So who you work with is obviously not just about the money, the skills, the network, the experience, or the big brand name, but it is also about their values, because they will shape your values and they will shape your organization's culture and future path. Whose money not to take is a pretty important question to answer. So at this point, I should tell you, at 11:30 p.m. last night, I deleted the talk I was about to deliver. I had had a lot of pushback from friends who are in different kinds of ecosystems, in different startup ecosystems, in different countries, saying, you can't say that to a room full of founders who are looking for money. They don't have the luxury, they don't have the power to say no to money when it comes along. Those of you in this room who know me know that my brain doesn't work after 4 p.m. 9 p.m. is my bedtime because I wake up very early and work very early. So I went to bed, said, we'll see in the morning. And when I woke up in the morning, my subconscious hadn't actually processed that feedback that the talk was rubbish and I should say this to a room full of founders. And the first thought in my head was a founder whom I had mentored and advised for 8 years and known for 20 years. He runs the biggest technology news site in India, called Medialama. And his only condition was that I need editorial independence. So every time he talked to an investor and they wanted control on what he was going to say, he walked away from the money. It is 8 years now that he created his technology news and journalism and analysis website. He's still going strong. He bootstrapped. And I have witnessed his journey through the pain, through the problems, through hiring challenges, all kinds of things. But he stuck to his guns and his values, where his values were concerned. So you know what I did? I went back and I said, I'm going to go ahead with my main topic, the main point that I'm going to make to you. Because you know, according to Oprah Winfrey, Maya Angelou told her that when people show you who they are the first time, believe them. And people are forever showing us who they are. The only question is, are we looking what is right in front of our eyes, and are we looking hard enough? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shefali. Are there any questions to Shefali's presentation? Oh, yeah, thanks, Catherine. That way. It's more a comment, and it's thoroughly supporting that. But also, the thing that people don't do to kind of in the detail is look at the shareholder agreement. So what can happen, I don't know how many of you have had to ever look at a shareholder agreement, there's a few nods there, that the devil is in the detail, and power can kind of change hands without you maybe realising what a line means. And so when you are doing these things, do pay attention to your shareholder agreements. Do pay attention to, we've got a lawyer over here for an investor who's very kindly put something together for you. It's like, thank you very much, I'll look at it, but you have to take responsibility for those details, because sometimes that's where the problems can arise and can then be problems for quite some time.
Yeah. So that's a really good point, and you will remember that in our conversation Catherine and I had, I said pay a lawyer. Pay your own lawyer. I have actually saved a startup company's posterior when a large company approached them and said, we would like to partner with you. You are so wonderful, you have a great product. And the CEO sent me the document they were about to sign. And I said to her, who are you? So she said, what do you mean? I said, this is an existential question. Are you a product company? Or are you happy being an arm's length software developer with no control on the IP you develop while you're in this agreement with this big company? She said, where does that say that? I said, well, all over this document. She hadn't actually read the document because she came from a big company where all the legal diligence was done by the legal department. Well, in the startup, you do the first reading and you go to the lawyer with having done all the reading with a list of questions, and the lawyer explains things to you, works with you as your advisor, as your partner, which is why it comes back to being a lawyer. It's a false saving to make. Any other questions?
Great. So, thank you again, Shefali.